What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live. I am your host, Rob, joined with my co-host, Seamus Zarlingo. Man, it's been a while since I have been able to sit down and talk some C's, finals, the holidays, and what a great game, right? I mean, the perfect situation for me to come in and talk about the Boston Celtics. Seamus, today, Celtics 3:30 tip-off in Los Angeles against the Clippers at the Crypto.com Arena. The Celtics absolutely pummeled the Kawhi-less Clippers 145 to 108. Tatum was your leading scorer, but man, oh man, we got so much to talk about. Celtics obviously advanced to 2-1 on this road trip. They have the Los Angeles Lakers on Christmas midday coming up on Monday. However, there is so much good that we can get into with this Clippers game. Boston really controlled from the halfway through the first on. It really was a display of not just the starters this time, and we've seen it. Um, the top five guys be the go-tos for these games, but it feels like we're starting to see the bench kind of come in and contribute in ways and players in which they weren't contributing 15 games ago. And that's exciting because this is a team that a lot of people were saying is thin and is really, once you get past six, I mean, and me including, I said that. Once you get past that sixth, seventh man, it gets thin. I'm starting to second guess it. Bench points tonight. We got a little bit of everything from everyone. Kaida, we're gonna talk about him a little bit later. How about another double-double, Seamus? His second of this road trip, 14 and 12. That's not bench numbers either. Those are starting center numbers. O'Shea Brissett, again, another guy that's kind of just sprawled into this lineup in this rotation throughout the course of this road trip. He had 12 points, 4 of 5 shooting, 3 of 4 from behind the arc. He was phenomenal. Drew Holiday, he's getting into his role, Seamus, but I do first thing I want to talk about is rotation. You are seeing this Celtics team's rotation kind of go from 7 to 8 man to kind of 9 and 10 now. You're seeing Kaida come in with the injured Luke Cornett, and you're seeing a little bit more of O'Shea Brissett mixed into the thing. Those are two new players who you really weren't used to seeing. Why do you think that they have seen so much improvement and so much usage recently?
Well, to me, this team on every level is clicking on all cylinders. You look at the top of the roster and now the bottom of the roster, even the final couple of minutes of that game, it felt like the Celtics bench squad, they were, and we're not talking about the normal bench squad, folks. We're talking about the players who never play, who never see minutes.
Right.
Drew Peterson, I'm not sure if that was his NBA debut tonight, but his Celtics debut. That group was just playing at a higher level than the Clippers, and that gives me confidence that the entire team, they're going to be playing at a higher level, and we've seen it all season already, that they're playing at a higher level than a lot of teams in the NBA. And the Clippers, without Kawhi Leonard, they were just no match for the Celtics throughout the day. They were leaning heavily on Paul George, even Russell Westbrook at times. James Harden, I didn't really feel his effectiveness in this game whatsoever. And the Celtics, they looked younger. They had more energy. They were more physical,
Right.
more athletic. And that goes for mostly everybody on the team. And for everybody to get this run in right now on the West Coast, right now the Celtics are guaranteed at least a 500 record. Now we want that 3-1 record
Right.
on Monday, on Christmas, back in LA, of course, against the Lakers. However, this win today for the Celtics, for it to be that big of a discrepancy down the stretch and to see the bench then come in and just pile it on, usually that's a moment in which you never know what's going to happen. It could go either way, bench squad versus bench squad. And everything for the Celtics was going right today. And the three-point shot, we must mention that 25 three-point makes for the Celtics today. And I believe 15 of them coming in the first half. So the Celtics' ability to hit those three-point shots, and I believe almost 2/3, if not more, almost 75% of their shots in the first half were three-point attempts. And we're going to talk about it, I'm sure, on another post-game
Sure.
segment later on in the season where they're going to miss a ton of threes. We're going to be like, oh my goodness, the ratio is not
Well, we
correct.
just
But
saw that in Golden State. We saw that in Golden State.
right, but today you see the other result of it where they hit 25, and it's nearly unbeatable when you score 145 and then you put up a defensive effort good enough to hold the Clippers to 108.
Right. So I think that with this scheme Boston's running, they're if they can continue to tip their hats on the defensive end, then I think it will be very successful. Because if you're getting stops and you're shooting the ball at a high clip, I think that's what Missoula's whole scheme here is get your stops and you can shoot a little bit. Those numbers can come down a little bit shooting wise, because if you're playing a high level defense, you're going to get more opportunities and more shots in which that will allow yourself to get put into a better situation to win. I didn't hate the shot selection today. I thought that there were 53 good 3-pointers. There are a couple in there when once you get up 30, you start playing around with a little sidestep three. You play with your food a little bit, but I'm not opposed to that. If they want to do their sidestep threes up 30, go for it. Because I'll tell you what, today's win, I'll take that every day. I loved how he played. Something I did notice today was Jason Tatum relying heavily on that 3-point ball. His ankle looked solid. He kind of came down on it a couple times, but Seamus, you and I noticed the refs were calling a lot of. I think he had 3-point shooting fouls today.
Tatum. I mean, the Clippers. There were two legitimate plays within the game where the Clippers. I don't remember. One of them was Zubac, and the other one, I don't remember who was the other defender, but clearly in his landing space, and that's one they're going to call every single time ever since the rule was made, from Zaza Pachulia coming down against Kawhi Leonard, who's on the bench tonight with a hip injury, not an ankle injury, of course, but twice that happened to Jason Tatum, and I thought those were just completely obvious calls.
Yeah, so let's hop into. I do want to talk about Jaylen Brown tonight, because again, the box score is an average game for JB, but it feels like this guy. And again, I haven't gotten the opportunity to be here on these post game shows recently in which he's been balling, but it just feels like there's a level of calmness and fluidity that has been added to his game this season. And I think tonight he had a rougher game to his standards that these days, 3 turnovers to 2 assists. However, again, in a game like this, the numbers really vary. This is an outlier game for the Celtics. That you're kind of going to erase some of the tops and some of the bottom games to find the happy medium towards the end of the year. However, Seamus, Jaylen Brown, it just feels like there's just a new level he's hitting in terms of controlling the pace of the game. And it feels like he has found his role in the flow of the offense, in which when Brown touches the basketball, you almost know something's good's going to happen because it's flowing well. How do you think, and really when do you think Jaylen Brown has been able to do this? Because this isn't something he's always been able to do. This is a progression we've seen from Jaylen Brown this season, the ability to do this, what he's doing.
I think for Jaylen Brown right now, it's all about decision making, because all of these guys ultimately have the talent. Jaylen Brown has the talent. Jason Tatum has the talent. And some of their biggest flaws come within their decision making, turning the ball over, just not being equipped at times mentally to make the right play. And most of the time they are, but there's just these little moments, particularly in pressurized situations down the stretch, in which you can see them falter. But Jaylen Brown started the season where most of the game was that from Jaylen Brown. It just didn't look very fluid at all. Yet now, I think he's making better decisions on the basketball floor. And I think he's exploiting mismatches a lot better. He's not chucking up as many threes whatsoever. Now, tonight he took 6 threes and he was 3 of 6. And I think that just goes to show he's taking shots that are coming more within the offense and not forcing the shots that he wants to ultimately take. Because we all know these guys want to be Michael Jordan. They want to be Allen Iverson. They want to be their idols that they saw growing up, right? They want to be that ISO one-on-one player who saves the game. Everybody wants to be that. Who doesn't want to be that, right? But ultimately, basketball, you have to be unselfish. And sometimes you're going to need moments in which they need to be that level of player. But oftentimes, you just need to run good offense. and you need to let your shots come to you in good moments and be exploiting the mismatches, like I said, that are available out there on the basketball court when rotations are switched around. So ultimately, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I will say too, but Jaylen Brown as of late, to highlight him specifically, I think he's making better decisions on the basketball floor, and he's playing at an MVP level in my mind. Now, he's not going to put up the numbers to win MVP or be in the
You can't.
MVP
Not on this team.
conversation.
You just can't.
No, no, no. But I believe he is in that conversation of player. And the fact that he started the season as such and is now breaking out in such a way in December, kind of wiping away all the talk. And I feel like people aren't even paying attention to the team right now because we've had what, one national TV game in the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, last three
Yeah.
weeks? Well, no, we've had two national TV games, I believe, this month, right? Or outside of December
Golden
1st, that was
State
in
in
Philly.
Indiana.
Philly was December 1st. So take out the Philly game December 1st, in which we actually won against Philly. People forget. We've only had two national TV games since that date. Indiana, Golden State, both of them we lost in sort of horrendous fashion. I would say Golden State was
Yeah.
more
Was
horrendous.
worse.
But
Yeah.
outside of those two performances, Jaylen Brown and the rest of the team have been almost flawless. And today was such a highlight of that. And they didn't even need to play the whole game today. But I'm looking forward to the game on Monday, Christmas Day, against the Los Angeles Lakers, because if this trend continues, what we're seeing right now, I think we're in for an all-time duel. The Lakers are not on a good stretch, but LeBron he looks like he has 3 more years left in him. Anthony
Right.
Davis, we saw him just a couple weeks ago put up a 40 and 20 game. I think we could be in for an all-time matchup on Christmas Day coming up if this trend continues with the Celtics, and of course, if the Lakers can pick it up from where they are. But whew, this team right now and Jaylen Brown, they are really on a roll.
Right. And again, the Warriors. So I think that's a game that's just an outlier, mental roadblock in terms of what happened. I'm not worried about that. This team, I think, is starting to play some really good basketball. And again, we're at game 28 now. This is why I say the 25 game rule. Because in the NBA season, there are some teams that have been together for a while. You know, teams like Indiana, for example, in Orlando. Those are two teams who have been that core is this is like their third year, second year. They've been together for a while. So the beginning of the season is going to be when they're thriving. They didn't make a whole lot of offseason moves. The same core, maybe a new head coach. Sometimes in both these cases, the same head coach. So the beginning of the regular season benefits teams like that. For teams like the Celtics and the Bucks, these two teams who made a lot of big. I mean, even Philadelphia less so because they didn't really add; they just really subtracted. It was an addition through subtraction. But teams that made these big time moves, and even the Lakers, you see, it takes time to find the groove and to find the rhythm, and not just for the Jason Tatums of this team and the Jaylen Browns, but for the guys like O'Shea Brissett and Neemias Queta and Peyton Pritchard. It takes time for those guys to be established into the rotation, and it takes time for Joe Mazzulla to figure out how he wants to use these guys and when he can use them. So I think just finally we're starting to scratch the surface of what this team could potentially look like. Because I do believe that when this team and every individual is playing their role, this is a very, very high powered offense paired along with an intense and high level defense. I mean, this is truly, people are calling us the hands down favorites they're not calling us the hands down favorite for nothing. It is a very overwhelming sense of talent on this basketball team. And I think you're starting to see that. And you're seeing that with some guys not even hitting their best basketball, but a certain someone who has started to finally play their best basketball. It looks like he's found himself a new home. Is your player of the game tonight, Drew Holiday? This man is coming off of this man is coming off of a 21-point game against the other night against Sacramento. Almost put up a triple double. It is back-to-back player of the games for Mr. Drew Holiday. He had 20 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal. Super efficient shooting. Oh my God, hold on. I got Ian. 1 second. Hold on. I gotta pause this. Ian, my guy, we're live.
I wanted to join the show for a second.
Oh
Let
yeah,
me hear
show
it.
him. Let's show him. Let's show him on the broadcast here.
My bad.
Can we?
Celtics have won back-to-back games for the first time. Or no, they've scored 140 points in back-to-back games for the first time since 1966.
They scored 145 points for the first time since 1966. Is that what you said?
No, in back-to-back games.
In back-to-back games.
Yeah, the first time the Celtics have scored 140 plus points in back-to-back games since 1966.
Give me. Let me hear
historic.
you. Let me hear your takeaways for tonight. What'd you like?
They kicked their ass. In all seriousness, I'm a huge fan of Kata.
How couldn't you be?
I mean, for real.
They gotta make that into a full-time contract so we can play in the playoffs.
Wait, guys, should I eat the Kata cookie on the broadcast right now?
Sorry, wanted to join in.
All right, I appreciate it, Ian. I'll see you, brother.
It's half the cookie.
Bye.
Let me see. Let show the.
Okay, wait. Let's pull out the full cookie. It's the holidays.
Yeah, we do need the
stuff here real quick. We'll go back to player of the game, folks, but we got to do holiday stuff right now.
Show the cookie.
I made this cookie the other night. Look at that. Wow.
Why make a Jason Tatum cookie when you can make a Nemus Kaita cookie?
Okay, look, I originally asked my sisters, I was like, which players should I do, right? Like they know any Celtics players, right? And one of my sisters goes, Jason Tatum, and I go, no, that's way too obvious. And then I think I got like a Twitter notification. I was watching the Celtics Warriors game like on my phone. We were doing cookies, right? I was watching it on my phone, and I was like, man, Kata's playing really well. Now we're doing a Kata cookie right now.
Cookie, Kata, the Kata cookie. I love that. You know what? Would it be bad luck to eat it?
I don't know.
Is it bad luck to eat it? I feel like eating the Kata cookie could potentially.
I made a basketball cookie too, and it's like all. Oh, now I got frosting all over my. This is what happens, folks. You gotta make your cookies a little bit thicker, or else they'll break. You didn't know you were getting a cooking show here on Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame, but this is exactly what you guys come for every single time.
It's the cookies, the Nemus Kaita cookie. I love that. But let's hop back into what exactly Drew Holiday has been doing so well. Again, it looks like he's gotten more comfortable, and I think something us Celtics fans, Holiday really hasn't been a concern, but you remember how Derek White was in his first half year in Boston. It was a completely new Derek White and different Derek White we saw second half of 2021, 2022 versus 2022, 2023. I mean, it was like we got a whole nother player. So again, Drew Holiday, it seems, Seamus, like he's finally figured out what he needs to do to be successful. Because this is now 2 games in a row where he is just quietly putting up these stat lines that are 21, 8 and 10 against Sacramento the other night. And then 26 and 7 today versus the Clippers in super efficient fashion. How is Drew Holiday doing this?
Well, Drew Holiday and another player that's been winning player of the game quite frequently as of late, Derek White, they've both been able to feed off of the plethora of offensive options the Celtics do have. And obviously Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, but also Kristaps Porzingis. Al Horford is no pushover as an offensive player, just as a passer and as somebody who can sometimes come in, hit a corner three, hit a pick and pop three. Peyton Pritchard, he comes off the bench. He's quite streaky, but I believe they had a stat on the Clippers broadcast about him. There was, I believe, 5 occasions this season in which he hit over 5 threes. And that's just one of our players off the bench. So I feel like he's almost becoming a little bit underrated of an asset right now, even though he is a streaky shooter on some nights. But Peyton Pritchard, he's an offensive option too for the Celtics. And the fact Drew Holiday, Derek White, defenses have to worry about all these other scorers for the Celtics. They can come in and just be an all-around type of player on offense and be players that let offensive opportunities come to them, whether shots come to them or like Drew Holiday had tonight. I believe he had 7 assists on the night, or within the assist game, within the passing game, setting guys up on cuts, setting guys up in the corner on the perimeter,
Right.
and just making the right plays, making the right decisions. And the fact the Celtics have all of this offensive talent and all of these guys are all high IQ players willing to sacrifice within their roles. I'm loving this night to night switch of this man's on and now this man's on and now this man's on. You could legitimately look at anyone's stat line and go, they could win player of the game. And we talk about stat lines, but just performance in general on the court, within the film and on the stat sheet, a lot of these guys are making an impact that you look at what the score is tonight, 145 to 108. The other night in Sacramento, I believe it was 144 to 119. So this team is reaching another level right now. And I believe there's still competition out here for the Celtics to face within the NBA landscape. But we're seeing some of the teams that, might have some contender status, but might be more inching towards the middle. We're just dominating these teams.
Well, how about this, Seamus? Right? Here's a little stat for you. The Boston Celtics currently sit at the highest or the best record in the NBA. Really, the best. Let's focus on the Eastern Conference. The best record in the Eastern Conference at 22-6. The Milwaukee Bucks are a half game behind them at 22-7, and the Philadelphia 76ers are 2 games behind them at 20-8. Strength of schedule so far through 28 games. Philadelphia 26th, Milwaukee 30th, Boston 1st. Now let's take a look at the remaining schedule of the season. The 3 easiest remaining schedules for the remainder of the season are the Orlando Magic, who play an average of 480 or 48 win percentage. Then the Chicago Bulls tied at 29 with 48%. And then with the easiest remaining schedule in the NBA is the Boston Celtics. They play the Pistons 3 times, the Wizards 3 times, the Hornets twice, the Spurs twice, the Trailblazers twice, and the Grizzlies once. So again, you look at, this is why this whole 25 game thing is so important. Again, I'm going back to that because you see 2 teams who are 22-6 and 22-7, and you think, oh, well, hold on, 2 top dogs. However, if you take a deep dive into what the Celtics have actually done against the teams in which they have done it, you would be quite impressed. These are no pushover teams that the Celtics are doing this to right now. The Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Clippers were winner of 8 games before tonight. They have been playing some phenomenal basketball. James Harden, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, they've had it rolling and clicking despite no Kawhi. This team was at home on an 8-game win streak playing an Eastern Conference team. They had every advantage ever. Boston was without their starting big man as well. So this was a very winnable game for the Clippers. They lost by 37 points. So this is, and I mind you, the Boston's not going to do this every single night, not over 82 games, but this just shows you where the Celtics can be talent-wise. For 145 points while allowing 108 is special, Seamus. And now that I'm 25 games in, I can start talking a little bit crazy now.
Yes.
But, right? I've been saying all this
time.
I've been saying all this time, 25 games, but this Celtics team is the team, not the team to beat, because Denver still rightfully so has that title because they're the defending NBA champions. But this is the best team, the front runner in the NBA. Seriously this time. Because it feels like I said that last year, but I wasn't saying it confidently because I think there were some real flaws in the Celtics team. If this team is healthy, there is not a single team outside the Miami Heat that scares me. Not a single team. Minnesota, I don't think we'll see them. Denver, they don't scare me because of this. I don't think they have the overall talent that Boston has. I think Boston can out-talent the Denver Nuggets. However, Nikola Jokic, he's a different beast. But I'm not sold on Jokic yet.
It's going to be tough still. It's going to be tough still in the Eastern Conference and in the West because I still feel as if these other teams have a lot of depth and size that could disrupt a lot of what the Celtics like to do. And we all know the Celtics, if they hit a hit a patch where they're not making 3-point shots, that could be the detriment to them. And I believe that Miami, you said it, Miami is just eighth seed. They could enter as the 10th seed in the play-in tournament. We could be the 1 seed, right?
Right.
I wouldn't want to play Miami. I wouldn't want to play Miami in the first round. No way. No way. I don't want to see Miami until the conference finals. And if we have to play them in the second round, so be it. But the Miami Heat are going to be a challenge no matter what, because they're just one of the better half court teams in the Eastern Conference, one of the more physical, and, from a stamina standpoint, they're one of the more elite teams in the league. They'll always be there in May. On the other side of the bracket, Denver and Minnesota are right there. I still think OKC is a bit young at this point,
Yes,
but
for sure.
Denver just has a two-man game where they can get a bucket no matter what down the stretch, and that kind of concerns me just a little bit matching up with the Celtics, because if you can manage the game, if you're Denver all the way down to the fourth quarter, if you're going toe-to-toe with the Celtics, you could say, yes, the Celtics have a little bit more offensive firepower in terms of their talent, but we know the Celtics sometimes revert to hero ball, revert to bad decision-making down the stretch, where Denver, they like to run their offense. They go that two-man game with Jamal Murray, Jokic, pick and roll, and they can always get a bucket out of that. They clear out one side of the floor, put shooters on the other side, and it's just so hard to stop in those situations, especially in the playoffs down the stretch when teams are going head to head in the half court in a slower setting. So that's what I would be concerned about if I were the Celtics going up against the Nuggets. Now, the Timberwolves, I feel as if there's a guy, Anthony Edwards. I feel like he could be somebody who, there's always that one player, right, in playoff series that seems to come out in ways that us fans, we just cannot stand, right? We've seen it in the past. Jimmy Butler in the first round in 2017 came out in a huge way in that series. Rajon Rondo for the first two games. Of course, my first favorite Celtics player ever, right? And there are always performances and players that come out in series that are special. And I think if Anthony Edwards were to lead the Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert, Towns, Naz Reid, I said it on Twitter last night. I'm just going to say it here again. I think the Timberwolves should maybe consider moving on from Cat if Naz Reid is there, just saying. But if they're in the finals, I believe it's an Anthony Edwards takeover moment. And under those circumstances, it could be anyone's ball game. And you would hope that Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown would have that moment too, particularly Jaylen Brown, two Georgia guys going at each other. But we'll see what happens with the Celtics moving forward. Still a lot of competition in the East. And, oh, yeah, there's that team, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Bucks, too, who have two of the most physical free throw merchants in the entire world, Giannis and Joel Embiid.
Right. I think the name of the game right now for Boston is stay healthy. As much as I'd love the 1 seed, and again, we're talking super into the future, but I think this is just mentality going forward, I think, for the Celtics. It's needs to be health. Because what makes this team so dynamic and so special is that starting five that we can see. That Brown or that White, Holiday, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis five. We need to see a healthy Kristaps in the lineup. And again, if it means you have to rest him up the last 10 games of the regular season or whatever it may be, or, you only play him, out of 10 games, he's playing 8 of them or 7 of them, that's fine. Because I really think that the only thing that could beat the Boston Celtics right now is themselves. I truly believe that. And injuries is something that I think you could see derail this team. Because it was built, this operation, Brad Stevens put together a team, a system to operate around Porzingis. And I say around Porzingis, but Porzingis is the thing, is the operator that makes this whole thing run. Tatum's the best player, Tatum and Brown, but Porzingis makes it special. He makes it difference. And I believe the two most important players, right? The X factors for this team is Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis. So moving forward, Boston, obviously they need to focus on, playing good defense, knocking down shots, not allowing second chance points. Some of these things that have, they found themselves losing games from, but also they need to stay healthy. Porzingis, we've seen it as this started off the first 10, 15 games, super healthy, super reliable. Recently he's been, obviously got that calf injury, and then the other night he landed on Domantas Sabonis' foot. And now he has a little tweaked ankle. So again, probably precautionary. You want Kristaps playing on the game in which you got LeBron and the Lakers on Christmas Day. However, moving forward, Seamus, I believe that the Celtics really do need to take care of their health and be very, because how many, we have a bad history of injuries. This something with this medical team scares me. So moving forward, I really think the Celtics need to stay healthy.
I believe right now the Celtics are managing their lineups and minutes and players
Very,
quite
very
well,
well. Very well,
because
right.
even amidst the stretch, I think one of the more fun parts about this little stretch for the Celtics, well, this month for the Celtics really, is they are doing it amidst somewhat of an inconsistent stretch of lineups. And that inconsistent stretch is due to the fact some guys are resting, some guys have been injured. Jason Tatum, of course, sustained an ankle injury. Kristaps Porzingis, an ankle injury coming into today, managing his calf before this ankle injury. And Al Horford, of course, resting. So all of these guys have been in and out of the lineup, and yet the Celtics are still putting up the numbers and performances they are. And amidst this, all these guys are getting rest. All of them are managing injuries. Now, we don't want to see injuries, but we want to see them manage their minutes and cut back as many minutes as possible during the regular season, knowing a potential long run is ahead of us and a run to June ultimately. And I think this team, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum specifically, know what it takes. Look how long the season extends when you are progressively playing into May and June every single year. Well, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they've now played into May since 2017. It's 2023
Right.
now, and there was a little bit of a weird turnaround too there in 2020, 2021, merging, the offseason, making it very, very small. So they know the importance of shaving minutes to, of course, feel like they're fresh later on in June. And this stretch in December basketball is simply just not as important as basketball in April, May, and June. However, it's important to do the little things, and it's important to gain a consistent rhythm out on the basketball floor. And ultimately, during the stretch, the minutes in which are being played are relatively low, and the games in which are being played are not as frequent for some of these guys in and out of the lineup, to the point where I think it's going to pay a lot of dividends later on down the line come June, when the Celtics have to give their full effort on the basketball floor against teams like the Heat, the Sixers, and maybe later on down the line, like the Nuggets, who have also been playing year after year deep into the schedule.
Yeah, and again, I think it's I think the Celtics have done a phenomenal job, and if you just look at the minutes played tonight, and that's why these games are so important, and those third quarters that they've struggled with are so important, because any opportunity you can have in the NBA to dock down 10 minutes a game, you take it. Tonight, Jason Tatum, 30 minutes from his normal 37. Jaylen Brown, 29 from his normal 36. Al Horford, 26 from his normal 31. Derek White, 28 from his normal, like that adds up. And if you have over a course of 2 weeks, 4 games you can do that, 3 games you can do that, that's almost every 2 weeks, every week, you're skipping out on a whole nother game. You're
Right.
saving your legs. So that those minutes, they add up. And we've seen it before. Jason Tatum in the NBA finals, he just wore out, coming off of a USA Olympic run in the bubble into the new season with that month off, and then into that Olympic run, and then into the NBA season, into the late June. I mean, we've seen it with our own two eyes how when the thick of it in the late May and in early June comes in, and it's really down to the thick of it in the Final Four here, and it's Celtics, Heat, and whoever it may be, in the end of the May. We've seen it. Players' legs go, and that is because the Celtics have had a history, Seamus, of not closing games out and not finishing their business, and those minutes add up. This could have been a game where the Celtics, at halftime, were up by 19 or 17. This could have been a game where they have a lousy third quarter, And next thing you know, the Clippers are entering the fourth down 6. I mean, we've seen that before. So that's progression. And it's really important that when you're managing injuries and all this stuff, you're trying to win a championship, you have to see the bigger picture and why this game in December, which you're up by 17 at halftime, by sticking that lead is so important because all of that stuff adds up over 82 games. And if you have just 15 games a year where you're cut down your minutes, you're almost saving yourself 5 games. You're almost saving yourself a whole playoff series, Seamus, that you can keep those legs fresh. So definitely, I think something that the Celtics need to keep talking about and keeping their eyes on are those minutes. And with those minutes, Seamus, comes someone that needs to be talked about. The All-Star, Derek White. This guy has been nothing short of amazing. Is he an All-Star?
All right. I think is this where we have to get into this conversation? Because I said, okay, I made sort of a stance on this on my page earlier, and I was formulating it throughout the night last night because this has been a real conversation around Celtics Nation, and I'm remorse that I do not remember this writer's name, but somebody for the Celtics blog had a tremendous article about Derek White and his basically his all-star campaign. I mean, if you want to point towards something that sparked Derek White's all-star campaign outside of what he's done on the floor, this article is going to be it. But I read this article last night and I was thinking, a lot of these numbers are great, but let me dive into this just a little bit further, right? And Derek White is undoubtedly amongst the most valuable players in the NBA. And when we talk about some value numbers, there's some numbers in which don't necessarily mean too much because of players essentially their volume on the floor is just not that high. They don't play too many minutes, right? Derek White does play a lot of minutes out there, and he does have a fair amount of volume. And this, to me, I think you can make a case for Derek White being an all-star. I think you can if you start looking at the all-star game differently. But I don't know if the league will. It's hard to say at this point in time because there is a heightened awareness within statistics and analytical analysis of the game of basketball that Derek White is one of the most valuable players in the NBA. The problem is, to me, there are a lot of other players out there that put up more volume than Derek White, but do not have as many value stats. And that value comes either defensively or offensively within the pass game. What are you just doing all around on the basketball floor, right? And I personally believe that maybe some of those metrics we should be looking at more for the All-Star game and for All-NBA. The All-Star game and the All-NBA. If you zoom out, who's selecting these players? It's the coaches for the All-Star game. It's the media for All-NBA and all the awards. So looking in terms of the media and looking in terms of coaches, for the coaches in terms of the All-Star game, are they going to look at the numbers and notice that Derek White is one of the more valuable players in the NBA? I feel like some of these coaches have, of course, taken the numbers more into account. Of course, our head coach, Joe Mazzulla, has to the full extent. Other head coaches might be a little bit more old school. They might be more in the game of catering to the stars who have more volume, less of the value statistics, but, this guy averages 22 a game and Derek White averages 16. So I think the volume, you have to question if Derek White is up there amongst the all-star players. But in my mind, just in the long view of Derek White potentially being an all-star and an all-NBA or whatever you want to place him as, a top 15 NBA player, because right now he's 13th in box plus minus. Mm-hmm. If Derek White, if we're going to have that conversation with him, I still think in the long view, Derek White is not a player that you want to build around. He's not an all-star. He's not a star level of player. He's a high-level complementary player to high-level all-stars. And ultimately, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Al Horford is coming off the bench. He's playing with all of these star players. And I believe he's making the most of his opportunities right now. It's only December. It's a relatively small sample size up to this point where the All-Star game will somewhat consider January as well. But I believe that this All-Star talk is centered on Derek White playing the most within his role rather than him actually being an All-Star level or all NBA level of player. And that's where it's
Right.
just like this conversation is just a little bit weird. Like, and what is the real criteria for the All-Star game? And I don't know, I might be complicating this way too much, but I believe Derek White could be an All-Star, but some of his volume maybe suggests that he shouldn't be.
Derek White's an all-star. And here's why. His impact on the game and what he does and the team he's on, history suggests that he deserves the all-star nod. We have seen the Atlanta Hawks get Jeff Teague into the all-star game and Kyle Korver. We have seen the Indiana Pacers get their guys into the all-star game off of good records alone. We've seen that before. Derek White is arguably the most important player on the Boston Celtics. He does everything. He can score 30. He can defend the other team's best player. He can get you 4 or 5 blocks. He can get you 4 or 5 steals. If you need 10 assists, guess what? Derek White can do it for you. And there's not many players in the league who have the flexibility while having the availability and the ability to do all those things. His ability to adjust and adapt to the situation that the Celtics have is phenomenal, Seamus. I think this guy has absolutely earned himself an all-star nod. And it's definitely, I think, the deciding factor is just from how the Celtics will probably be the 1 seed. And I think when you are the 1 seed, you do get that nod. It will be interesting because I think he's an all-star? Yes. Do I think he gets in? No. I think Kristaps will probably get in because of the name. I believe that'll be Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that the Eastern Conference guard spot is a little bit harder to get into than the Eastern Conference big man spot with Bam Adebayo playing the way he's been playing and Joel Embiid been playing the way he's been playing. I mean, you could even take a dive into outside of that. I mean, you really not Miles Turner, maybe. You could see Brooke Lopez potentially, but I think Kristaps Porzingis really has that third spot at that center spot solidified as the third best center in the Eastern Conference, I believe. And I do believe that the guards, it gets messy. You got Donovan Mitchell and you got Darius Garland alongside Tyrese Maxey and Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, and along with Jalen Brunson. So I really do, and honestly, Jaylen Brown. So I do believe the front court is a lot harder, or the back court is a lot harder to get into as an all-star these days, opposed to the big man spot. So while I do believe he's an all-star, Seamus, I don't know if he'll get it. Now, here's something fun I want to do before we close off this show. It's the holiday season, and this is I got some inspiration here from the NBC Sports Boston pregame show. With the holidays comes presents and gifts. You know, that's not what it's about, but that is part of the season. If you could gift the Celtics an ability, what would it be? I can tell you what I mean. So if I were to gift the Celtics an ability this year, it would be a killer mentality. I would give this Celtics team that killer instinct. So what is something that you could gift to this team that you might think they're lacking, Seamus?
Okay, I kind of want to go with something different, but I don't know if I can say. I don't know if I can say what I wanted to say on this program, but like I was thinking an FU mentality too. Like I wasn't. Yes, like literally when I was sitting here, I'm like maybe a little bit of FU, maybe like within the Celtics, but overall, I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see overall the ability to just balance out their offense just a little bit more. And I think they have the ability to do that. And ultimately, it just takes decision making on most nights. And I would say game planning, depending on which opponent you're facing, because some opponents are different than others. You're wanting to get more perimeter shots. against certain opponents, and other opponents you're like, okay, we're just going to attack the rim no matter what tonight. But I would like to see them gain the ability to balance themselves out to a point on offense where every single night we're just seeing the same result of what the Celtics do on offense. And I think we're getting to a point where we do feel a rhythm of what the Celtics like to do on offense. And I will say it's been a little bit inconsistent just because of the in and out, just nature of the lineup right now, with everybody either resting or harboring an injury. So I think in the future, the Celtics, I think they'll be able to do that, but just decision making and balancing out the roster, just that ability for the Celtics, because everything else, I think they have enough. Maybe a little bit more size, just one more sizable guy. Maybe not a big, but just one more sizable guy. Who knows?
I think I'd give them the gift of health.
Oh, yes.
But in all seriousness,
Yes.
health, again, I talked about it earlier. If I could know for a fact that there wasn't this lingering possibility that Kristaps, like anytime Kristaps jumps and comes down, I'm like it's like a whole is he okay? So I think that if they're for holidays, if I could gift the Celtics anything, it would be to go into the playoffs and go into the later half of this NBA season, knowing that these guys are going to be healthy. Um, because again, I do believe that's the most important factor for this Celtics. So Seamus, again, before we close out here, I would like to discuss a little bit of the Lakers game. Because again, I think it's going to be an interesting and post game show will be up on the air, whether it's on Christmas or the following day after. So Lakers presented a much more physical presence. It's a slower pace game, a team that loves to pack it into the paint, loves to block shots, is okay with you attacking the rim. We've struggled against some teams with some higher physicality, right? We've seen that with Minnesota, in Orlando, those teams that are, physical and slow down the game a little bit more, we struggle with. Where do you think, or how do you think this game goes? What do the Celtics need to do against the Los Angeles Lakers?
Well, the Celtics ultimately against the Lakers, I mean, they're going to have to hit a lot of 3-pointers again. I mean, they do this if they're going to take a lot of threes, in which they did tonight, and they took about 75% of their shots from 3-point land in the first half. They're going to have to sink those shots at an efficient rate ultimately, and that's just going to be the key to every game, is just hitting shots. I mean, that's just the key to every basketball team is going to have to hit shots. But against the Lakers, I think they're going to have to be particularly physical and not settle for the 3-point shot, because tonight I think there were moments in which you could settle for that three because of the nature of this game. And before we actually go out of here, let's show this lead tracker to everybody, because this one's actually pretty hilarious before we dip on out, because yep, there it is, folks. 39-point lead for the Celtics, and it was just never
one. Yeah, 1 point lead. God.
No, I mean, seriously, it's almost like, oh man, like for anyone, I apologize to anyone who has OCD looking at this, because it was almost a wire to wire win. It was almost a wire to wire win, just that 1 point margin there by the Clippers. But I mean, that's the Celtics. When they make their shots, they look like that. But the Celtics are going to have to be more physical against the Lakers and continuously drive it to the hole, because like you saw in that lead tracker, there were times in which this game was just completely out of hand, where the Celtics could kind of linger away from what they normally like to do offensively. But I think during the Lakers game, right away from the start, they're going to have to get after it, and they're going to have to get after it fast, and they're going to have to put a physical foot down, because if there's anything the Lakers can be, it's physical for the amount of size that they have. And that's ultimately why they are still a contender with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. There's so much size there. And LeBron, I don't know if everybody's really paying attention to this, but LeBron James, he's still a top 5 NBA player, folks. He's 39 years old. This makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever that he's playing at this high of a level, and we're getting to a Tom Brady range. And this is why I can appreciate it, because we saw our guy Tom Brady. He went the distance all the way to 42, and I don't think he wanted to, or no, what, 43, 44. I don't think he wanted to stop either. And LeBron, I think, is inching into this territory where I watch him and I go, he's legitimately faster and more physical than a lot of these young guys that are coming into the league. And it's harrowing to see the discrepancy of LeBron and some of these other players and what they actually have to face when they come into the league and have to go up against a team like the Lakers. But the Celtics, they're a prime equipped team like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Al Horford. All these guys are either in their prime or past their prime. Derek White, Drew Holiday, of course, just slightly past their prime, and Al Horford, that is. I would still say Al Horford just slightly in his prime at this point in time. But the Celtics are going to have to bring the physicality early and not be complacent with their shot selection. So going into that game, it's all about that for the Celtics. And, of course, defensive intensity, too. Ian and I have kind of discussed this over text as of late. I want to bring this up, but I think their defensive intensity at the beginning of the season, it hasn't always been there. And during this last stretch, I think we're starting to see it come around the corner just a little bit. It's not full playoff intensity as of yet, because we don't expect that in December. But this Laker game, Christmas Day in Los Angeles, everybody's eyes are going to be on this game. And I think this is a moment in which the Celtics, against LeBron, against AD, if everyone's healthy, of course, in Los Angeles, this could be a moment in which the Celtics can really put on a show for everybody in the nation. Like we mentioned earlier here in the show, they haven't played any national TV games in which have made them look good in the past month at all. The 2 national TV games they had, they both lost. Outside of those games, nothing. All wins, all fantastic performances. But I think this opportunity coming up for the Celtics is going to be a big one in front of everybody. And they just need to bring the physicality, bring the intensity early on.
Yeah, I love the point you made about complacency. Don't want this team to get complacent. It's super easy to do against these high level physicality, intense defenses like the Lakers. Davis presents a tough matchup and presence inside. Still go at him. Still go at him. I do not want us just settling for bad shots. I don't mind us shooting threes, but I like us getting into the paint, getting on the break, and then shooting the threes. There's a clear difference between what happened in the second half of the Warriors game versus what happened the past 2 games. Same amount of 3-point shots around, right, being taken, but the volume and the selection in which they're being taken at is much better. And I think that's super important as you find these teams that play a little bit slower, that like to control the possession a little bit more and like to, get down to the thick of it come fourth quarter. But Seamus, man, it's Celtics Lakers. It's Christmas. It doesn't get better than that. The Celtics are at the top of their conference and the Lakers are towards the bottom. It doesn't get better than that. This is no question basketball fans' favorite time of year. It's Christmas. You got games all on all day. I know I'm going to have my fireplace going. I'm going to have my TV on. I'm going to be having basketball on all day. I'll get to watch the boys in green take on the purple and gold on the road. I would have liked it to be at the Garden, but there is something a little bit, nostalgic, I guess, almost being in that crypto.com arena, even though it pains me to say that. But again, there's so much to look forward to. It's the holiday season. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And it feels so good to be back. I'm so happy I'm finally able to get back. Again, happy holidays, guys. From me, from Seamus, from everyone over here at Celtics Talk Weekly. We look forward to seeing you guys back here after that Christmas Day game against the Los Angeles Lakers. Until next time, guys, Seamus, next to me is my